Hey guys, so today I want to talk to you a little bit about diet and more importantly, how we seem to have got caught up in the shiny stuff rather than what diet or weight loss or anything is, which is basically a principle. So the title of today's video comes actually ironically from one of my favourite band's songs, but it still holds true and I think it's going to explain things a lot for you. So today's video topic is reinventing the wheel just to run yourself over with it. If you have failed on a diet before, if you have struggled time after time after time, and you keep going into different diets, you're basically reinventing the wheel and running yourself over with it because you keep failing on it, right? So to use the wheel as an analogy, I'm going to take you through the timeline of the wheel, okay? And this will really make sense as we go through. So, first wheel was a solid mass, round, with a hole punched in the middle so an axle can go through it. Did it work? Yes, it worked. Was it the best way of doing it? No, but it worked. A big, solid, round piece of wood or consecutive bits of wood glued together with a hole punched in the middle. And it worked. It rolled, it got you from where it needed to be. This is the principle. This is calorie deficit, okay? X amount of BC ago, the wheel turns up. That is the principle. The principle of weight loss is a calorie deficit. The principle of building muscle is time under tension makes muscle mass. Power training is how fast you can move an object. Strength training is how heavy that object is that you can move. And the principles that come behind it. Everything is based around the original model of the wheel. And the funny thing is it hasn't changed. Skip forward. Next model of the wheel. We get into spokes. It gives it more structural integrity and put a nice little metal trim around the outside to stop it from duffing up. Okay? Is that any different from the first wheel? No, only that we've refined it. We discovered that counting calories was better because it gives you a more accurate reading of what you're trying to do. We started writing out 12 rep programs, 8 rep programs, 6 rep programs, 5 rep programs, depending on what we were trying to do. Okay, so keeping to the diet principle, adding spokes to an original plan still keeps the axle and the circle, okay? The principle is still the same, we just refined it down. So we figured out you need to figure out what calories you need to be on, and you need to remember that the basic principle, no matter how far away we come from it, is still a calorie deficit. As I explained in a previous video, if you have been told you are in a deficit and you are not losing weight, unfortunately, that is wrong. That doesn't make you wrong. It means the number that you were given in the first place is wrong and you need to adjust it. We go back to the original principle. The original wheel, the round object with a hole in the middle, is still the calorie deficit. We move on. Standard wheel. Great drawing, I know. On a car, a standard wheel does the job. We added a tyre to a metal circle with a hole punched in the middle. Better structure integrity. You can go further with it. The tyre helps ride on the road. Okay, that is all it ever needs to be, by the way. Okay, so if you take... We found out that we need to be in a calorie deficit. We then realised that tracking calories was a good way to do it, or portion control, and we pretty much made it in that modern package we have now. Track your calories, eat the right type of foods. No food should be off limit, but just know that some foods are obviously going to be slightly better for you than others, and the tyre is managing the deficit to make it sustainable, okay? This wasn't sustainable as a wheel because it didn't last long enough. This definitely wasn't because it was just a chunk of wood with a hole in it and it used to splinter and crack and fall apart. We refined it. People were trying to figure out what a deficit was without having any idea of where to start from. So we refined it. We moved to the next stage. We decided to figure out calculators. We made methods to find out where people need to sit, but always kept it as a variable with the means that we could fiddle it a little bit. Then we came up with a pretty solid idea that you need to be in a calorie deficit, so we've got the axle in the hole. We needed to have a starting point that was pretty solid, that was a little bit flexible, which is the metal rim, and the tyre just meant that you don't make the deficit so big that you can't make the journey. Now, we could have stopped here, but we decided to go forward, put some shiny alloy wheels on it, really thin tyres You're seeing where our keys come in here, which is super fast and trendy, looks really good, but doesn't necessarily do the job. And it's no different than the first wheel. So every time you try a new diet, every time someone tries to sell you a new wonderful way to lose weight, they're just selling you an alloy wheel. The principle is still the same. They're just making it look better because you'll buy into something that looks sexy and can promise you results quicker. Now, I am currently running a 30-day challenge, okay? And my ladies have all lost at least 2 pounds, bar one, but she is actually due on that time of the month, so we've gained a bit of water retention. But that's fine, because we'll deal with that, because we've stuck to the principle. The entire diet plan, the entire challenge is to lose 5 pounds in 30 days. I lowballed them on their calories so I can give them back more, which makes it more sustainable. So we always started low and I intended to give them calories back. But they've all lost weight. And the biggest thing out of this is none of them bought into this because I didn't sell something fancy. All I said was the parameters were you had to lose 5 pounds in 30 days. And I gave them this. I just gave them the principle. Okay? Then I built on it a little bit and gave them the count to start with. Okay, they made this wheel. This didn't get touched. We didn't go to the shiny bells and whistles part. I didn't promise them the earth. The moment this becomes unsustainable, we add more to pump the tyres up. Okay, we need to get away from buying into these stupid shred programs, these stupid quick fix programs, because you're just buying a basic principle that has been made to look shinier than it should be. And you are going to run yourself over with that wheel because you can't sustain it, because you haven't bothered to know that the only thing you're actually working with is the principle of a calorie deficit. And it's very easy then when you buy the fancy program and don't lose the weight, or it's not sustainable because your tyres are too thin because they haven't been pumped up to give you the right amount of deficit. You have no flexibility to pump your tyres up and give yourself a few more calories if you're dropping down. So for instance, for the clients of mine that have lost 2 calories in a week, that's actually overshooting what I need them to do. So we can give them calories back. You should have that flexibility in your diet process to give yourself a little something back to curb it. If it's moving too quickly, the deficit's too big. But everyone's scared to take those calories back a little bit or even ask for some more calories because they're struggling, because they feel that it doesn't go in with the shiny bells and whistles program. The fact of the matter is, a 50 calorie deficit is still a deficit and you will lose weight. It might just take you a bit longer. But if that's what you need to do to sustain it, then that's perfectly fine because you haven't changed the principle. Okay? So the takeaway from this video is remember that every single process when it comes to weight loss, every diet, every shiny method, every, standard calorie deficit, watch what you're eating. Keto, intermittent fasting, vegan if you're doing it for weight loss. Anything else is just a shiny version of the dull tyre because they want to sell it to you. They all run on the same principle. Now that being said, there is nothing wrong with choosing any one of those if you find that they will keep you to the deficit the best. If you want to do keto and it's working, then perfect. If you want to go vegan for weight loss, that's perfect. Doing it for ethical reasons is different. I'm not touching on that. If you want to do intermittent fasting, that's fine. If you want to do low carb, high fat, that's fine. Not quite the same as keto. If you want to do high carbs, no fat, that's fine, because no matter what you're doing, you're still using that basic crummy old piece of wood with a hole punched in it to get you the results. All you've done is moved along the timeline to get to the one where you think it's going to make it the best. But if you're not managing it, it wasn't the diet. Okay, maybe the method didn't quite work out, but the diet wasn't wrong. It just took you too far away from this crummy old wheel. Okay, so this is where you always need to remember. Go back to the beginning and always just remember that the basic principle of any diet, any weight loss plan, any shred, any beach body program, any blitz, any all of these big fancy alloy wheel words is based around this crappy wooden circle with a hole in it that just said you have to be in a calorie deficit. So don't reinvent the wheel to run yourself over with it. Use the wheel you've got, look after it a bit more, and realise that all it is just a wheel with a hole punched in it, and it's going to get you there. If you have any questions, if you're interested in what was going on with the challenge, if you want any help at all, just to get you back to this basic principle and a starting point, let me know and we'll go through it. Speak soon.